Hello there, my name is Martin Henley. This is the Effective Marketing YouTube channel, and this we think is episode number 7 or number 8 of Marketing News. So we're doing the scrolling so you don't have to, so you can focus on being more effective with your marketing. If you've spent a second here, you will know that this channel is all about supporting you to be more successful by giving you everything you need to be more successful with your marketing. I'm giving you everything I know. I'm dragging in everyone I can find. I'm reacting to good stuff and bad stuff on the internet. And every 2 or 3 weeks, Mel comes. Mel, the co-conspirator of crazy, co-creator at Crazy Might Work. One of those things. It's Mel. Hello, Mel.
Hi.
Co-conspirator is
Concierge.
better.
Co-creation.
Co
Concierge.
concierge. Co-conspirator is better. Co-conspirator of crazy might work.
Yeah, I like that. And co-creation is what we do. Work together.
Co-creation. So there's too many co's and too many c's. That's the problem.
You're
It's
absolutely right.
yes.
Maker
Good.
of new things. There you are.
Yes. Okay, so we didn't do this last week because I was too busy being shit and you were too busy being successful. So it didn't happen last week. So what have you achieved that's astounding and newsworthy in the last 3 weeks?
Oh, listen. Last week was fantastic in a few different ways. We I guess one of the highlights for the last 3 weeks is we finished our cross-industry collaboration on sustainability, where we get sort of academics and government and private sector together to find new and interesting ways to save the world.
Yep.
And so we had the Shark Tank pictures last Wednesday,
Okay.
and a really good turnout. Some very senior people from each of those private, public, and university settings on the judging panel. Already, probably one of the most successful we've had, because we've had a lot of emails after the Shark Tank saying, "What we're in. What are we doing now with these pilots?" And so we're certainly going to see some momentum with that, and some very interesting solutions. So watch this space.
Excellent. Is it actual Shark Tank? Like you're not? Do you have Shark Tank in Australia? Is it? It's not to do with the TV production, or it is to do with the TV production.
No, it's a blatant breach of copyright, I would say, that we call it
Fantastic.
a
That's
Shark
my
Tank.
favourite kind of breach of copyright. If it's blatant.
We could maybe it could be the Dragon's Cave. I mean, there's Shark Tank, Dragon's Den, so we've got to come up with something. But still, people know what that means when you say Shark Tank and Pitch Day and stuff. So that's what it is.
Yeah, pitch day. The thing is, it's good. Why do people engage with that so much? I wonder.
Well, look, I think the nature of the ideas we love it. I think particularly when we see something that we think, why aren't we already doing that? And
Yes.
I think it astonishes the human mind that that is still happening every single day. We think, well, look, we've got microwave ovens. What more is there in life? Like what else could there be that's new and different? But there are issues that can be fixed in unique ways that we just never thought of. We don't realize that something's actually madness until somebody says, "You realize this is madness and we should be doing this."
Yes, I get that. So it's about sharing the innovation. I have a bit of an issue with the. I've not seen the Shark Tank one. I have a bit of an issue with the Dragon's Den one. I have a bit of an issue that these guys. I think people who are successful in business, clearly they work hard, but there's a large slice of luck involved. So the idea that these people, just because they've made a shitload of money, are able to judge all of these good, poor, bad ideas, I think is really poor. It's a little bit like Britain's Got Talent or those things where just because somebody's lucky enough to have made it, they're now capable to judge the others. I have an issue with that. And then I have an issue with what they think is investable and what they don't, which is basically they don't think very much is investable. It has to be brand new. It has to be unreplicable, blah, blah, blah. So I've got issues with that. I've got issues in my life. You know that, Mel.
Yeah, and I agree. I have those same issues with those shows. I think that I like about the difference is we don't have three private investors on our panel. we have a government policymaker, we have an academic who researches in that space, and then we'll have a private industry, but usually a mix of a small, an SME, and a large. So it's quite a diverse panel, and then you get a proper review. Because, for example, the government person is always saying that this is how this is going to land at a local level with council, or this is how this is going to work at a federal level if you're trying to do something that's, say, international.
Yes.
So those things are really invisible, the machinations of government, if you just have private industry. They will know some things and they're going to be working with ministers and so on, but they're not policymakers themselves. So
Yeah.
the Environmental Protection Agency was one of our participants, for example, and she really, like, the rubber hits the road when the Environmental Protection Agency starts taking it seriously, because then it becomes law ultimately.
Yes.
So that behaviour change starts to happen. But it's also that, you know, she said, sometimes government just gets caught up in red tape and forgets the power of play or thinking in a childlike manner. It's very difficult to simplify things when you have like 3 ethics committees. And,
Yes.
it's not to say that you don't have those things, but because you do, you're kind of complicated something that's already pretty complicated.
Yes. You see,
So
what do I think? I mean, that sounds to me like a much more real world situation where, government's involved and agencies are involved and academics maybe are involved. Who's pitching?
So it's a combination of participants from all of those bodies. So we have some of the participants are private sector, they're staff
Yep.
of those organisations. Then you have policymakers and you have academics from different disciplines. So it's, let's say we were
Wow.
looking at sustainability, but we'll have a business person in there, like a professor of economics or something like that. So these people are so interesting to listen to, because you get them in a dialogue. But the summary of it all is that our program is putting the whole system in the room. So we're not the first to do that, but we're probably the first to do some of the crazy things we do to arrive at these solutions. So our prototyping process is pretty out there.
Yeah. So it wouldn't be you if there weren't something crazy going on. So that's okay. And this is very relevant and useful, isn't it? There is absolutely an issue in any organization of any size about how you get ideas around. Do you know what I mean? Or shared, if it's up or down or across. So that sounds to me much more useful. Good. Well done, you. I've achieved. I'm so close to getting my WTF series running again. And also, we're doing well on the channel. I've been doing some kind of marketing work on the channel, and the channel's going in the right direction. But
Excellent.
I don't achieve very much here.
Well, you might have won a client, because I have run our new marketing strategy past the boss. So yesterday we spent a full day on it, and he's already pretty keen to engage you in
Okay.
talking us through what we can do with that.
Okay.
So,
That's good.
um, so
Do
you
I have
did
to
that with
pretend to be
earlier.
excited about doing work?
Yeah, yeah, you can absolutely. You should.
Okay, I'll do that. I will absolutely do that. Okay, cool. Well, that's exciting. That's really exciting. Anyway, so maybe I've achieved something in the last 2 weeks as well. We're here to talk about the news. And I feel like we've drifted away from the news, but you're definitely here with 2 stories today. I'm here with 3 stories today. So this is absolutely going to be about the news. So, what is it that has caught your eye? What's going on in the world of marketing that you think is of interest?
One of the stories I'm interested in is L'Oreal's reaction to a transgender model, an artist, and what that kind of means for the world in terms of how we, I suppose, are responding to our wokeness.
Yep.
That's kind of interesting. And then looking at, what the Marmite campaign on Facebook being like the number one most effective Facebook ad, and the Marmite squirrel who fronted up the Pancake Day video, and why that is so clever, and
Wow.
people. So kind of two very different. One's kind of heavy, maybe, right? And
Yeah.
one is the opposite of that.
Yes. Okay, cool. So it feels like we might have actually found marketing stories, which is really good. My three are the big news. Elon Musk has acquired 9.3% of Twitter. So many questions that we can discuss. My second story is Facebook, small advertisers, group action against Facebook. They have been found guilty of inflating their audience, the number of audiences or peoples or views or clicks or whatever. So that's interesting. I also saw another one. There was a 2.3 billion action against Facebook back in January, but we missed that. So we'll have to wait for a development there. And my third news story is not a news story in the sense that anyone is reporting this, but I have just discovered this. HSBC in the UK, might not be in the UK, I've got the story, we can check it. But what they're doing, well, it doesn't matter where it is, because they are employing a marketing manager specifically for the metaverse. Dun, dun, dun.
It's happening. It's happening.
It's frightening. Anyway, so those are my three stories. So because I've got three and you've got two, if we do one of mine, one of yours, one of mine, one of yours, one of mine, then we'll be finished. Then we can go. Is that cool? So I think the big news is Elon Musk acquiring. Oh, I haven't even got the page open anymore. Okay, and this is an evolving story. So can we do this screen? This screen full. So if we go, let's pretend we can't see my tabs up here. I haven't been looking at anything naughty. It's okay. Right. So Elon Musk has spent $3 billion. Are you seeing this? Oh,
Yeah.
I'm on Bloomberg and I don't subscribe. So let's go to The Verge. Come on, internet. Elon Musk's SEC filings reserve the right to buy a larger stake in Twitter. So what's going on is Elon Musk has been has bought 9.3%. It's cost him $3 billion. He is probably the most vocal. Yeah, somebody compared it to the way he uses it to the way Trump uses Twitter the other day. Like, he is the most effective user of Twitter, let's put it that way. The way this is evolving now, there's a question about he's turned down a seat on the board, but now the news is that might give him the opportunity to buy more shares. So he will have a bigger holding. And that's what this story is about. I don't know if we're interested in these details. You know, he is an advocate of free speech. He is the richest person in the world. He is now 9.3% stakeholder in Twitter. I've got some questions. Do you want to hear my questions?
Yeah, go for it.
Is this marketing news? So is Twitter actually still a marketing platform? That's one of my questions. What difference does this make? How do marketers respond to this news? Do we care?
These are big questions.
These are big questions.
My response to the first question is that anything which people are talking about is, in my mind, a marketing outcome. Because if you're not talking about it, then there's been no effort to interrupt you and have you talk about the thing.
Yes.
So to my mind, it's marketing news in that people are talking about it. Twitter as a channel is something that is very regularly talked about. So in that sense, I think, yeah, it's a marketing story because of the amount, the level of influence he has with that purchase. And it is interesting, the idea that you can just brand Elon is pretty powerful. So the idea that he's doing it because he passionately requires freedom of speech and he's fighting for the man in that regard, because that's how it feels. That's certainly how the narrative in many quarters seems to be reporting that.
Yeah. I mean, he is an insane PR machine. Like, he is insane. Like what he's done with in the cryptocurrency space, at least, with Dogecoin is insane. A lot of people have made a lot of money just by following his comments, and when he says invest, he's talking to millions of people, and they do what he says. So and then even things like the electric vehicle thing, I thought it was common knowledge that the environmental cost of motoring occurs in the production process. So it occurs in the process of manufacturing cars. His PR machine has blown all that aside. So everyone thinks that his cars are going to save the planet. Um, so, yeah, I think it's insane. It is being reported a little bit as a freedom of speech thing. He did a Twitter poll just before he decided to buy $3 billion worth of a business, saying like, do we think, I don't know, something like, do we think freedom of speech is important or something? Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, is it marketing news? Like, if marketing executives or marketing people are watching this, is Twitter a serious marketing platform? I mean, it's the least. I think organically, it's worth playing with Twitter. In terms of actually spending money with Twitter, I think it would be the last thing I would recommend. Like the very last thing I would recommend.
Yeah, like I mean, for me, and this is just a very different take on Twitter. I see Twitter as a fantastic way to have immediate communication with customers um, on the go. So, and particularly, I think about it as a channel for example, emergency situations like flood and fire and so forth, where you're kind of alerting citizens about what's happening. So for government, I think there's a really effective and interesting way of using it in that way. But in terms of brand, it feels like an individual um, place for people to express their views,
Yes.
as opposed to necessarily Coca-Cola having a fantastic reason to be using Twitter.
Yes.
It's more of a personal.
Yeah, I mean, it is a bit weird because it's definitely a media platform, like it's a social media platform, but and it's definitely an amazing communication platform. Clearly lots of people are connected, but it doesn't feel like a great place for me for advertising.
No,
Twitter know the very least about their users for sure. When you sign up, you give them your name. I mean, I signed up in 2008, so I haven't signed up recently. I don't know what the process is now, but you give them your name and you give them your email address, and that's kind of what they know about you. So it's always been for me very contextualized advertising, and even very contextualized, like if you build a network, if you build an audience there. The thing is, it is like organically, it is by far and away the easiest place to achieve something without spending money with them. But I don't really know. So if this is 9.3 billion for 9.3% for 3 billion, they're saying this business is worth $33 billion. How can it be worth $33 billion? It's insane.
well, it's going to come down to users, isn't it?
Yeah, but,
Like
but they don't know
it's
anything about these users. So what it actually comes down to is market confidence. But what is it that the market is confident in about these things? These people are there.
well, we're not their target because 70%. Well, hang on, you are because 70. Sorry, I'm just googling some stuff here, so, as
Yeah,
usual.
good. I mean, I'm also going to start Googling stuff.
Yeah, 70% are male. These are just demographics. We're looking at the US. 23% of adults use Twitter. That's a very large number. But when we say use, what I think, I'm just reading this, is that there was a very large number of basically people are on Twitter, but they're not doing anything interesting or useful. So passive users. I would be one of those. I don't use it very much.
Yeah.
It's very selective. I get more use out of other platforms than I would from here. But like their ad revenue was 1.4 billion in quarter 4 last year. That was a 24% increase in the previous quarter. I reckon that's down to retail. I would I would be guessing that's because we're coming out of the pandemic and having a bit of confidence.
Yeah.
Here it is, 391 million Twitter accounts have no followers at all. How's
How
that?
many?
391 million Twitter accounts
Yeah.
have no followers at all. So it's interesting. It's when you look at these sorts of platforms, I think it's really, you've got to be careful about what number statistics, lies and statistics, because there'll be people who've set up an account and then just gone off and never used it, never looking at that platform again. But then Twitter as an organization can claim that it's got X number of people looking at using this platform, but then how many of those are active? Like, what you're paying for active. You want people who are actually on there looking, engaging, and so on.
Yeah. So I'm also just looking, I've gone in another direction. I'm looking at revenue. So Twitter generated 3.7 billion of revenue in 2020, which was 10% up year on year. 86% of Twitter's revenue comes from advertising.
Yes.
Twitter posted a net loss of 1.1 billion in 2020, which was the company's first annual loss since 2017. Has 186 million daily active users. So the question for me is, who on earth is advertising on Twitter? Because for me, the targeting it's literally contextual. Like, you can literally, like, they're guessing everything. They're guessing everything. They're guessing the gender. They're guessing the age. They're just guessing the locations. They don't know the locations of these people. All they know is what people put in their profile and what they say in their tweets. So, like I say, I've never recommended anyone to advertise on Twitter. So, but even if it's turning over, how do we value a business? Is it 3 times turnover or 10 times profit is supposed to be? So if it's gone up by 10%, let's say it's got to 4 billion. If it's 3 times turnover, then it would be valued at 12 billion. Yeah, it's not working like that because it's on the stock exchange. So it's an entirely different gig, I would say. It's an intriguing thing. I'm not sure if it's even marketing news, is what I would say. But
And I think it's because when you look at who is, like, people who have the most followers, it's Barack Obama, Justin Bieber, Cristiano Ronaldo. Apart from CNN, it's individuals pretty much.
yes,
So, and so if you found yourself advising I guess, an Instagram influencer, then that person could do with a nice Twitter account. But beyond that,
yeah, but even then, you would want to grow that organically. You wouldn't want to grow that with advertising, with spend. Do you know what I mean? Because that skews
yeah,
everything. Because you don't even know who you're reaching. Then, at least if you're doing it organically, you know that you're reaching people who are interested in what you're saying.
that's right. And then it just depends on who you're trying to reach. Are these the right people?
Yeah.
Um, that it's one thing to say X number of females and males, but then are these people actually taking any kind of action?
Yeah.
Whereas I think if you go on, say, LinkedIn or Facebook, there's a lot of evidence that action happens. So
Yeah. Well,
something,
LinkedIn, you are going after exactly that person that you want to do business with. Do you know what I mean? By geography, by the company they work for, by their designation. There are 20 kind of search um, um, criteria on LinkedIn. And Facebook, they know absolutely everything. And Google, they know absolutely everything. So even if you're doing display advertising on Google, you can really drill down, get to exactly the right person. Twitter, I mean, it's years since I tested it. I would have tested it in 2008 or 2009, whenever it was. And I must have decided it was complete junk because I've not done it since then, So it astounds me that they might be generating billions of dollars. Billions of
well,
dollars.
yeah. And then I guess my question to you would be, why would Elon Musk purchase 9.3% of Twitter? Why would he do that if um, the level of influence, what's that audience that he's got an issue with? Is it really silencing? I mean, there's a lot of silencing of terror activity. That they banned 44,000 accounts who were suspected terrorists, and I wonder, were they all? Who know? I don't know. But is he actually fighting for freedom of speech, or, like, what is the reason that he would actually do this? Certainly it's gone up and up and up. Like in the last quarter, 24% growth. So that's interesting in itself, regardless of whether it's marketing or not. As a company looking at it, you know that's meaningful. But why would he do it? It's a very interesting move. It's certainly his world is about brand. Elon Musk is much like Brunson is brand Virgin. So SpaceX and so on, they're inextricably linked to Elon Musk himself. So he's in the right platform for an individual.
Yeah, and I think especially seeing as he does so well out of it personally anyway, it is his primary communication tool. And arguably, historically, it might be like buying 10% of television or 10% of radio or 10% of the telephone. Do you know what I mean? It might just be like that. It might just be like a vanity purchase because he can, or it might be because it is just the price is grossly inflated and he thinks he's going to make money out of it, which he probably will. He seems to make money out of everything. Right. You've gone a bit fuzzy. I don't know if you've got an issue with your internet at your end or if it's...
Yeah, it looks like my computer there's a lot of lag going on, weirdly.
Okay.
But my speed seems to be fine.
Okay.
Not sure why that is happening.
Okay, no worries. Let's soldier on, shall we? It sometimes does this and then it comes back.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So let's go to your first story.
I could try hitting refresh. Do you
want? Refresh your internet.
I could try hitting refresh and see what it does.
Okay, do that. Let's be brave.
Okay. I am back. Hopefully that
You look better. You look so much better. And we are still recording. And I will remember to take out that little 30 seconds of dead time. Cool. So we are on your first story. What is the headline of your first story?
L'Oreal controversy regarding a transgender model.
Okay. What's the story?
Yeah, now let me try and get this pronunciation correct. So Munro Bergdorf is a transgender model and activist. She was fired. She was the first transgender model that L'Oreal hired. But then she was fired. And then she was hired again after she was quite vocal about the event. And now she's the something ambassador. I'm trying to find. She's now an ambassador for L'Oreal.
Right. So she was rehired in 2020 is what I'm seeing. And now, okay, so I've got it at the wrap. So shall we look at the actual story? Is that useful?
Yeah.
Okay, so how do we do this? I've really got to get this working properly. Screen plus, this is us. Okay, so here's the actual story. So is this the quote? Once white people begin to admit that their race is the most violent and oppressive force of nature on earth, then we can talk, Munro Bergdorf said in a now deleted Facebook post. Shortly after L'Oreal Paris hired transgender British model Munro Bergdorf for its Yours Truly True Match campaign, the company dropped the model after a now deleted racist Facebook rant in which he said all white people are racist. L'Oreal champions diversity, the company said on Twitter. Comments by Monroe Bergdorf are at odds with our values, and so we have decided to end our partnership with her. What does this woman look like? Is this the one?
Can I share my screen, I wonder?
I think you can, but I think... Oh, no. It's not who I thought. Images. Okay. No, it is the one.
I'm attempting
Okay.
to share screen.
I'm sorry?
Also, let me just close that off again. Carry on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so she got into trouble on UK TV about a year ago for saying exactly the same thing.
Yeah, now the irony in this is that saying that all white people are racist is quite a racist thing to say, because you're really saying that it's not possible for you to be nuanced in this regard. Um, so it's passing a prejudged, prejudiced, which is racism, um, judgment on a race based
Yeah.
on race. So that's my definition of racism: is where you're you're negatively judging someone based on their race. So I think it's an ironic statement, but that's not the thing I was interested in was how L'Oreal have responded to the whole dialogue around transgender and how they have really fired her and then hired her again. So I kind of think it's an interesting sign of the times that it feels to me like this person has got L'Oreal where she wants them, really. That's how it feels. Um, I don't feel great about it. I mean, I don't actually have anything against her, but I feel like that I just got, I don't know, there's something about this whole thing that makes me feel a bit uncomfortable.
Yes, it is uncomfortable. So how have L'Oreal responded then? Not well, you don't think?
Well, I don't know. I mean, they brought her back. And so this whole idea of, now she's saying things like, um, it was tough. L'Oreal really got it right in listening to me, opening up a dialogue so we can now work together. And you know, she's leading L'Oreal in terms of the unpacking gender labels and roles and all of that. It just, it feels back in the 2000s, I think it was. Lego had a kind of a similar thing where they were trying to, but I liked what Lego did, different to what this L'Oreal thing. So Lego users were making robots out of Lego and selling them online. Lego
Hmm.
tried to sue them, and then they realized that was a bad idea. And instead, they partnered with them and started providing them free Lego that they could sell and whatever, and sort of entered into a partnership with these really super users of their product. And I thought that was good. In this scenario, L'Oreal have said that's not on brand. You've got to go, and then they've just done a backflip. Um, and I do wonder if is it because of her influence, and that because it's like, well, our values say this, and now we're going to do the opposite. It doesn't feel like a very smooth, natural transition for them to do as a brand. It's like they are just panicking somehow. Like they didn't. I think it's like, I mean, I like the idea that you can say I was wrong and change your mind and so on, but it seems like a big thing to just flip on. And it wasn't anything to do with her being transgender. It was her comments about racism.
Wait,
Is
wait,
the
wait, wait,
fact that
wait. I think all of these stories might be quite old. I mean, I've looked for stories in the last 4 days, 4 days ago, but these stories are dated from like 2017, 2018.
well, since then, the story that I'm looking at is the 25th of March 2022, which is 4 weeks ago.
All right, can you share your screen? Let's see how that works.
Yeah, I did try actually. I don't know but it didn't seem like you saw what I was sharing. But let me just try again. There you go. You see that?
No. Oh, wait, let's see what's going on here. There. So assign guest 2, and then we need to go scene, camera, guest 2, Melanie Farmer's screen. Woohoo! Look at us doing it. Are you on a... Can you zoom in?
Can I zoom in? I'm not entirely sure. Maybe I can. Let me just go up here. Yes, yes, yes. How's that?
That's good. Okay, so this is the 25th of March, 2022. The transgender model and activist believes brands can learn a lot from her experience with L'Oreal, warning their diversity and inclusion efforts will become tokenistic and stale if they aren't plugged into reality. Okay, so
There she is,
there she is.
looking real, I guess. So, but yeah, so she was their first transgender model back in 2017. So that would have been news in itself. But she then did this rant, which you've spotted, and then she was fired because basically L'Oreal said we don't agree with that. You can't represent us in this way. Um, they L'Oreal backed down after the consumer backlash on that. So she has described the whole experience with that as being traumatic. Then she got an apology and rejoined in 2020. And she's now a member of here, the UK Diversity and Inclusion Advisory Board.
Yeah,
And so she's now like bury the hatchet, which is a kind of a pretty scary choice of words, but there you are. And she's saying it's good for brands to admit they're wrong. But I mean, it doesn't, to me, um, kind of excuse what she said on Facebook. That's nothing to do with. I think it's just an interesting. It feels like there's some kind of customers are controlling the values of the company in a way that maybe is hijacking what actually happened. There was this racist comment. They're like, we're not having that. And then the customers went diversity and inclusion, and they went, oh yeah, good point. We'll just have her back. That's how it feels. I'm summarising, and I don't. But it does. It's kind of like they have not. They've been silent on the racist comments. Were they or weren't they?
I don't think they have
Feels.
been silent. And I think, here's what I think, um, is I think this is a minefield for brands. And I don't know why they are doing it. I do know why they are doing it, because they are being distracted by a very vocal, very small minority, like an incredibly vocal and loud and aggressive minority, I would say. Brands don't have. It's like when we spoke about. Did we speak about the M&M's thing? No, I spoke about that with the owners. But it's like there's absolutely no need for M&M's to be woke. Do you know what I mean?
That's
There is no need for them to be promoting any political, gender political, any of those things, and brands shouldn't do it. And I can see the temptation might be to celebrate and promote freedom of choice, freedom of expression, all of these things. But there comes a point where it's just a really dangerous thing to do. I don't think the silent majority are really as excited about transgender politics or gender politics as we are led to believe. And I think it's quite dangerous. And I think I don't want to be. I don't think this particularly. But I think people who are so confused as to be confused about their gender shouldn't be having this much influence, is what I think. I don't think these people should be dictating gender politics in the way that they are. I think it's threatening to women and to womanhood. I think parents find it very threatening. There's this whole thing going on in Florida now with this supposedly don't say gay bill, which has got nothing to do with saying gay. It's a minefield, and brands shouldn't be going anywhere near it. There's absolutely no.
yeah. Like I'm trying to unpack what my reaction is about. I don't have any issue with the all of that. What I am concerned about is that real issues like the fact that a staff member posted something very racist. It happened to say all white people are racist. It could have said all black people are racist. It could have said all, Hispanic people are racist. It's not important.
No, it
But the
is
fact
important
is,
though, because if
what
it
I'm,
had been that, the response would have
yeah,
been immediate, and it would have
yeah,
been, "This is
and it
racist,"
doesn't matter.
done
Is my
whatever.
point. It doesn't matter. Is my point. The fact is, it's racist. It's definitely a racist statement, and they're saying, well, that's very much against our brand, not okay. And now that it's like somehow it's okay to be racist if you're actually we've decided it's okay to be racist if you're a minority and you've got a vocal minority behind you. So we're just going to let it slide because of years of oppression, whatever. And I'm like, well, actually, to my mind, what it is equality. It's saying if someone does something that is a sackable offence, I I think why would you abandon your values on that because somebody was offended? Like, do you know what I
They
mean?
they don't have
Stick to
they
a
don't
story
have
about someone racist and you don't like that and they're out. And actually, I don't care if you're transgender, I don't care if you're black, white, pink, or orange. We don't think that's okay at L'Oreal. So you got to go. And the fact that this person says, oh, I'm just going to pull out the transgender card. Okay, well, you come back then. And not only that, you're now going to be an advisor. I'm like, that doesn't feel very authentic to me.
Yeah, and that's what I would say is that none of this is authentic. Like, I don't imagine for a second that L'Oreal actually has values beyond wanting to position themselves as desirable, something people want to buy, and championing causes. And I think we had this conversation like a few weeks ago when we were talking about brands and the way they react to wars and stuff, like serious stuff that goes on. Like serious brands, like brands that are 100 years old, don't get involved, because their business is to sell their product, and the way they sell. Yeah, I think this is a landmine that too many brands are stepping on, and I think they're going to get found out in the way it seems to me it's happening in America. Parents, middle American parents, are kind of shocked to find out that motivated or just gender politically motivated individuals want to have secret conversations with their children in classrooms when they're aged between 3 and 8. And I think we're going to see a tsunami come back in the other direction. And I think it's going to clean out a lot of the nonsense. And a lot of these brands might well find themselves on the wrong side of that tsunami. These very small, very vocal groups have garnered a lot of support, but I don't think it's meaningful support, because I think as soon as these brands see that it's going to affect their business negatively, then they will just get out of the road. And the other thing you're saying, which is absolutely right, is there is a kind of hierarchy of minorities. So if you happen to be black and you are transgender and, then your point is more valid than if you happen to be like us poor old white healthy males. We're in trouble. We're nowhere on the scale. So everything
Well,
that we
there is
say
no
is just
one,
immediately toxic.
sad to say, Martin, that if you were sacked for being racist at L'Oreal, who's going, but you understand this man has a beard. Oh, well, in that case, he better come back on board and be a diversity and inclusion advisor. Like, no, there isn't a group sitting there fighting for that. And rightly so. It's like, to my mind, if you're sacked because you're against the values of the brand and you've breached some kind of, whatever, um, that hasn't changed. So why would you backflip? And that she's making out like it's an apology and this, but I just doesn't feel like that to me. It doesn't feel like, why have they apologized? And L'Oreal have been quite silent on it. They're just like kind of very vanilla, very grateful to have Monroe back. And I'm like, why was she causing you grief and now she's your best friend? It doesn't, and that's sounding really bitchy, but I feel like if someone needed to be let go, that reason hasn't been dealt with. It hasn't. You have not stuck to your guns. You're sending a message. Anyone want to be racist? Welcome aboard, because we're all cool with it here. After all, that's how it feels.
Yeah,
Their
but it
words
is
are
like that
constantly
because these
changing.
brands these brands don't actually have values. They are not actually champions of any of these things because they're just getting blown in the wind. You know, this
Yeah,
happens,
that's
they
it.
get
And
this
to take
backlash,
ownership, always have some goddamn,
or stay out of
grit.
it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Either
absolutely.
be
No,
committed to it or don't get in it. Because actually, what they're doing is they're doing this stuff for likes and for clicks, and that I think is dangerous. Is a dangerous space to be in, because I don't want to say that this is a. For me, it looks like a very confused individual. Like, this person shouldn't have the influence that they have. They shouldn't be. Um, because they're very confused. Why are they saying these
I don't
heinous
agree
things,
with
these
that.
heinous racist things?
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but like, I sort of don't care. If this person is really good at diversity and inclusion, like their job, then great. But if they're good at their job, but they're racist and that's really against your values, then they should go. And then it doesn't matter whether they are white, black, gender, this, whatever. The issue is a person did the wrong thing and was let go, and nothing changed. That's my major issue. And there's a whole other thing you're raised. It's not at all what I'm. It's easy to get distracted with the conversation about this transgender person is leading the diversity thing. That's a second issue, and I get it. But I also think if someone's got a job on merit, great. Someone now has been fired for doing something wrong, and then a couple of people said, "Oh, but you've upset us." Oh, okay, then back they come. Even though they set fire to the barn, we're all good. And don't mention the barn, okay? I'm like, what kind of values of it? You said no values, but I kind of think technically, if she was technically good at her job, whatever we feel about her capacity to do that, if she was really good at that job, then great. But no matter how good you are, if you've been fired for doing this thing that's really just brand destroying and that's breached a contract, have some grit and say, I don't, you're not going to bully me into just rolling over on my brand values. And even if they don't deep down have values, there's a claim of values that I feel they're not living up to. Like, our brand values are X and Y and Z, except for X isn't, we've changed our mind today for that one, and then we'll come back to it later. That doesn't feel like a good marketing decision to my mind. It feels like, stick to your values in a way that you like, you see. So L'Oreal purchased Body Shop. Body Shop is all about recycling and looking after the planet. And so Anita Colby got a bit of stick about selling to L'Oreal just as she was sort of towards the end of her life. But she did a lot of negotiation. She was trying to reassure customers that L'Oreal was going to stick to the brand values of recycling and reusing. How much we trust that actually happened, I don't know. Probably most people have forgotten that L'Oreal owned the Body Shop now, but because they have their own brand and all of that. But yeah, so there are many times where a brand is tested and values are tested, and what yeah. So
Okay, good. And I agree with you 100%. But what we're looking at, and what lots of brands are doing, is building these house of cards based on really poor marketing decisions.
yeah,
So it's not just like one. It's like, oh, this is cool, we're going to support this. Oh, this is cool, we're going to support this. Do you know what I mean? But they haven't thought any of this stuff through. Like,
it's a bit chaotic. Huh?
it's a bit chaotic. Yeah, really chaotic, because they don't have values. They don't have positions. They're just like, jump on this cool thing and this cool thing and this cool thing, and it will get them into trouble. So I don't know exactly what L'Oreal's demographic is, but I'm pretty sure it's largely. I don't even know the language that I'm supposed to use. It's women, like born women, is the vast majority of their market. And maybe these transsexual women are a small part of their market. They've let this part of their market dominate the whole thing. I think there's a backlash coming from women against transgender women, and they are L'Oreal's customers. And it could very easily get to a situation where L'Oreal's customers, the women, just go, no. And when this ambassador for transgenderism within their business then turns out to be saying really stupid things, then that just exacerbates that process. So I think we agree. I think it's maybe a bigger issue than you think it is. But absolutely, I've got a thing like my mate that I play squash with, like every week we go, oh, this actor's now said this, and they shouldn't be talking. Like actors should be saying what they're told to say, how they're told to say it. That's how actors should behave. Do you know what I mean? That's what they're good at. So like the whole Will Smith thing, he got up and did this. Well, he shouldn't be doing his own thing. That's not what he does as an actor. Like models shouldn't be talking. Do you know? Not that they don't have a right to talk, but it's not what they're there to do. Yeah, play to your strengths, And if you're doing really well.
And I think you're right about representation, that any spokesperson for L'Oreal ought to really represent the majority of the clients that they're serving.
Yes.
So if there's like 1% that are in this category of transgender, then it would be kind of, well, that's great. But unless they want to really double down and expand that marketplace. But, there's ways to do that other than saying, well, just hire this racist person back who we fired earlier.
Yeah.
It just feels like a very weird move. So anyway, that's my L'Oreal story.
Good. And we spoke about your stories always dominate. We spoke about that one for 15 minutes. Let's go to my second story, which is Facebook. Now, we all knew this was going on. Small advertisers win class action status in lawsuit against Facebook. The phrase 1 million to 1. In the latest case against Facebook, it's more like 2 million. A federal judge ruled earlier this week that a lawsuit against the tech giant accusing it of deceiving advertisers over its potential reach tool can proceed as a class action. The decision allows millions of individuals and businesses who have purchased Facebook ads or on Facebook or Instagram since August 15, 2014 to get in on the action, pun intended, and sue together. The lawsuit began in 2018 when advertisers accused Facebook of inflating the number of potential viewers an ad would get by as much as 400%. And pricing accordingly per CNN. Court filings, etc., inflating video reach. Facebook argued in court filings that the company has made updates to improve user estimates. They filed a bid to dismiss the lawsuit, which will be reviewed by the same judge later this year, given that this week he dismissed what he called a blunderbuss of objections from the company. So I feel like an idiot now because I was one of those people between 2008 and 2014 who was standing up in front of groups and saying, now you know exactly who your target are, where they are, but blah, 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 blah. It was true. But what was also happening is I stood up in 2008 in my training and said everybody and their dog is on Facebook. And then around 2010, 2011, everyone was like, yeah, my dog is on Facebook. Or my dog's got a Facebook profile. Do you know what I mean? So we knew this was happening. Everyone knew this was happening. Nobody knew it was 400%. It's fraud. It is fraud. 400% is fraud. Now, I've been in this game, are we calling it game, since like 1995. I started out in publishing, selling advertising in magazines. We had the certificated readerships, which was basically you'd get a certificate that says every magazine gets seen by 3 people. So your readership is 3 times your... It was all a lie. So this has all been based on lies forever, but 400%, that's like 4 times more than it really is. That's a lot.
My God.
What do you think?
But, well, I'm shocked. I'm really shocked by that. I actually wonder how, if it is small businesses, is it the Chamber of Commerce? Like how did these people kind of get talking about this? Was there one person who told another? And I mean, how did they actually... Did they go to a lawyer? I'm interested in the journey that led them down a path of finding enough small businesses to bring a class action on.
Well, the thing is, it wouldn't have been an easy journey, would it? At all.
No.
So...
Nobody... What's that going to do for your business and your perception? Any kind of conflict is always fraught.
Yes. Now, the thing is... what is the thing is, I've been feeling a little bit obstreperous recently. You know about this. I think this is the biggest challenge to digital marketing is these people. I want to say like
or the
all of these people, like Facebook, Google,
yeah,
these
it's just not
like
okay to lie.
it's not okay to lie, and it's not like what I say to people is you need a marketing strategy, because if you wander out into the wilderness with all of your resources, people are going to come and take them away from you. And the people I'm talking about are Facebook and Google and Twitter and LinkedIn and all of these people. Even Hootsuite, just trebled their prices,
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
communicate it to anyone, started helping themselves to people's money. So this is the biggest issue. This is the hardest thing to contend with in digital marketing, is that you're engaging with these businesses all day, every day, and they are literally only interested in your money. So
Yeah,
and
I
and
know.
and in this instance, they're lying. What's that? Sorry.
Do you think there's like, I look the Volkswagen scandal about emissions.
Yes.
Volkswagen got caught, but who's to say that everyone lied and Volkswagen happened to get caught?
Yeah.
So I wonder, like, is everybody lying, and it just happens to be Facebook got caught on this one occasion and have deep pockets so they can just shut it down. But like, it's really concerning to me that the that a that it's global brands, global companies, and so does that make it easier to lie?
Well, it certainly makes it easier to bury it if you get discovered that you are lying, or to contest it. So, I mean, I don't know if I am just much more cynical than you, but I am not surprised at this. It happens all the time.
Mm.
Literally, like we spoke about last time, Hootsuite tripled their prices and then shut down any mechanism for feedback. There is actually no way for them to receive this feedback. So they're probably
Well,
walking around. They've trebled their income, their turnover, and they're walking around like they're absolute geniuses. They're like, oh, well, no one complained. Well,
yeah.
actually, no one had the mechanism to complain. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I think with Hootsuite, to me, that's just a stupid decision as opposed to a lie. Whereas Facebook, I feel like that's a blatant lie, and you wonder, has that been since day one? Have they been lying about their usage stats from day one, and it's now part of their culture? Like, we just
Okay,
lie about this.
so now they've raised billions of dollars based on their usage stats. So if they've
Yeah.
quadrupled everything that's gone on, they should have only received a quarter of the investment that they received. They're lying to the stock market. They're producing these results every year. So the money from the actual advertisers is only the very tip of the iceberg, because essentially, if they're lying to their advertisers, then they're essentially lying to their investors. Which, do you know what I mean? It's like,
You know what this
it's pretty
sounds like? It's the
foundational.
housing. This sounds exactly like the crash from the housing market in the US. Like, it was all lies.
Yes,
It was, they were kind of subprime mortgages and all of that, and it's like, don't worry about it, just give me your money. There was a lot of that was just fiction,
yes,
and fiction was resulting in actual money flowing places that shouldn't, and eventually it backed up the system
yeah.
and had to give. So, do you feel like the day is coming for digital where it's going to have a housing collapse because the fiction will out?
I'm feeling like the day is here where it's changing enormously. I mean, look at what Apple are doing to Facebook. Apple have just turned off the data. Like, so Facebook is 10% as effective as an advertising platform as it was a year ago. So I think it's
So
here.
Apple's associated with Facebook. Is that what you're kind of
No.
saying?
So Facebook advertising is based on all of this demographic insight, which they essentially get through the app on the devices. And what
Oh, right.
Apple did like a year ago is they said, no, you don't get that access to our users anymore. No, they didn't say that. They said, what we're going to do is we're going to warn users when they have your app installed, they're going to get to decide how much of this data you're going to get. And basically, people are deciding not to provide that data to Facebook. So Facebook now doesn't have the demographic that it did a year ago to land this extraordinarily targeted advertisements on people. So I think the
Not
time
that
is
that makes a
here.
difference, because they just make things up anyway by the sound of it. So they'll just
Yeah.
continue to do that.
But like iPhone users are more than
Coming out.
50% of the market. So,
Right.
and Apple have been very vocal about this, and it's been very discussed. So it's not something they can sweep under the carpet. I think
Yeah.
the time is here for digital. So I spoke to a guy called Tom Breeze on my talk marketing thing. He's a genius YouTube advertiser, like amazing. I'll tell you how good he is. He is results only. So you pay him when he gets you a result. That means you don't pay for the creative, you don't pay for the ads, you don't pay for anything. You pay when he gets you a result. So he must be amazing at this, because otherwise he'd have gone out of business a long time ago. And he was saying what's going to happen is we're going to go away. Like, we've got lazy and fat on this amazing targeting. That amazing targeting is going away. So now it's going to go back to what it was previously, where all the investment has to go in your creative, because you have to make sure that your creative absolutely nails it, because you can't absolutely nail the targeting. So the message has to be so amazing. Like, so what I say, you land the right message on the right people at the right time. Your message has to be so amazing, because actually you don't know if you're landing on the right people anymore, and you don't know if it's the right time anymore. So I think we're at a watershed in digital marketing, where the very foundations of digital marketing, the insight, the ability to plan, the feedback, actually may have always been nonsense, but is actually just going away now, because these privacy rights, these privacy issues are causing people to think very seriously about what they allow these platforms to know about them. That's what I think.
There you go. So I actually agree with all of that, and I'm really happy that that has happened, because it's a David and Goliath story. It's really calling to
Yeah,
account
yeah,
the promise.
yeah,
And if you are in the business of misleading, it's just really a sign of our times. But the fact that it's actually coming out, and that a group have won a class action, that's got to be concerning for Facebook. You'd think they would, it's going to start costing them money, these lies. And so what happens now? Like,
yeah,
if you want to, if but your whole company's built on this narrative about the stats,
yeah,
what what's going to happen when everybody knows? That's
yes,
going to happen.
yeah. And it is kind of happening, I think. You see, if you think retrospectively about what went on, is that Facebook and Google and Twitter, supposedly $4 billion a year, have all helped themselves to billions of dollars of people's marketing budgets. And so that's one thing. They come up with this innovative way of identifying targets. Maybe it was the most effective way to do it. But prior to that, there was a situation between the media and the market where there was agency. So if you were an advertising agency, you lived off the 15% commission you made on placing the advertising. So you would put the whole schedules together, and then you would go to all these places, you would pay the invoices, you deduct your 15%, and then pay all of the media. Now, if Facebook and Google and all those people had done that thing, then there would have been billions more dollars in the market that would have come to agencies like me, who spent thousands, if not tens of thousands of pounds on advertising. I would have had 15% of that. There are agencies who. So the trick was the agencies were still there performing the same job, but they had to get the money from the client, or add the money on top and get it from the client. So, yeah, I think, again, it's just been like a house of cards. And hopefully, these different actions that are going on around the world will lead
It's
to
exciting.
different results. It's
It's
exciting.
yeah, we're shaking it up. It's
Yeah.
you know, it's about time. It's just it's also kind of encouraging to see that it's not, that all the power isn't sitting in one place.
Yes,
That
it
there is
really is.
opportunity.
And for me,
Um,
Facebook could be the first one to fall. Like, if that went, I think that would bring about an improvement to the world. Personally, that's how I feel. Okay, good. So as you said, it's about time. We got to 10 minutes on that story. So we're on to your second story. What is your
well,
second
we can
story?
leave mine to next time and kick off with a promise next time. of because mine is actually about a nice Facebook. Or maybe we want to end on a light note. Is
No,
the
well,
other
we've
thing.
got two notes. I've still got a little story to come, and we've got yours. If you're okay for time, let's do it, shall we?
I'm a bit out of time. I've got two things I need to get done today, and it's already 3:15.
Okay.
Um, so, mate, do you want to skip mine and go to yours?
Okay, cool.
Or
So it's really quick, my one. Really quick and simple. And it's not really a news story because nobody has reported it. But what it is this marketing
oh yeah,
manager metaverse. Location Central Hong Kong is where you'll be physically based. Permanent. Job description, you need to know about marketing. You need to have depth of knowledge on the metaverse and NFTs and all of these things. Now, the way this came to my attention was I was on LinkedIn and there was a post and it said, "Is this the hottest marketing appointment in the industry?" And because I have been feeling a bit obstreperous recently, I actually drafted, I'd never comment unless I know somebody and it's to say, "Oh, I love your post," whatever. I never comment because I could get into trouble in a second. Um, so, um, so I drafted the post. And I'm like, well, I hope you've made sure that you're achieving all of your service commitments for people with access issues and the elderly and all of these people before you start investing in this guff. Because that's what I believe this is. I think marketing is too easily distracted by anything digital. So digital currency is now a marketing issue. NFTs are now a marketing issue. The metaverse is now a marketing issue. And I think we should get the real world right before we start investing in this absolute guff. That's what I think.
well, Dolby are doing a lot in the metaverse, um, and so I'm interested in the metaverse. There's millions flowing through it with events. I think it was Travis who ran a concert in the metaverse for 20 million. Like there's so many interesting things going on in that world. Um, Especially, I think COVID helped because if we're locked up but we want to go to a concert, how do we do it? Well, we can go into this universe. There's some. What I do like about it though is there's some development of very impressive, very real tours. So you can go traveling when you're really unable to. That you can go and meet Indigenous. There's um, a tribal elder in Australia who actually witnessed the nuclear bomb going off in the middle of Australia during testing, and you can go and interview this elder. And it's like a virtual world. You sit there and you hang out and you can discuss things and and you've got all the sounds. The only thing missing is smell, but
Touch.
I mean, there's a lot of kind of cool things that are happening in that space, and so. But yeah, I mean, there's two pulls. One is that we're getting pulled into a virtual reality more and more in every way, and you saw there's lots of things that have happened in the last sort of 2 decades in that with just with social media itself, with Pokemon, with all these things, and now the metaverse. But there's an equal and opposite pull to back to nature and having actual interactions with humans and with animals and with trees. So I wonder who will win, and I wonder how these things will interact.
I tell you who will win is nature. Because nature will just come and wipe the smile off our face. Like it doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean? You still like reality will win because reality will exist when there's power cuts. I can't stand this. For me, this is the ultimate expression of where we're going wrong as a society. To imagine that any of this is real, when reality is here, and I think it's a very short-sighted cultural. Like the internet isn't real for a lot of people. Lots of people on the planet don't have access to the internet at all. So it's a very Western privileged position to say, okay, now we have this amazing thing. And because millions of dollars are passing through it, that for me also is an expression that some people just have too much money. Like if you are seriously investing millions in cryptocurrencies, which aren't real, or NFTs especially, which aren't real, that is just the worst expression of having too much money and there being too much inequality. And I only take some solace that these people might put on VR headsets and never bother us ever again. Do you know what I mean? That's the only good outcome I can imagine for this. And the point is, in the real world, old people in the UK now are deciding whether to eat or heat their homes. Do you know what I mean? They've closed down all of the branches, so these people don't have access to banking anymore. You know, I think it's ugly. I'm glad you're seeing some positives in it. You'll never see me in the
Oh,
metaverse.
yeah, look, I mean, there's therapy around depression happening in aged care. Um, so that anything can be used for good or evil. And
In
so
the metaverse?
yeah, yeah. So you kind of get immersed, and you have your avatar, and you're doing your thing, but you're suddenly
No,
young again.
therapy for old people in the metaverse. Is that what you're saying?
There you go.
I don't believe the old people are in the metaverse. I'm old and I'm not in the metaverse. I can't believe anyone. I know a few people older than me who are excited about the metaverse, but not very many.
Now
You know, so it's
this
nice that
is
they're offering counselling there,
really,
but is that market there? Is what I would say.
yeah, yeah, because it's a severe challenge for certain like it might shock you to know, but like men in their 80s is the highest suicide group at risk of suicide of all males in their 80s. And so by actually giving them these experiences, it can interrupt the depression and give them their life back, But so it's not to say that it's that everyone is on this thing, but it's just to say that there are possibilities for use for good. And connecting in with, like, there's some interesting stuff happening in media with news. So training people in covering uh, the news in journalism, and you can consume an actual experience of what it's like to be in Syria by walking around in that environment. That's more virtual than, yeah. Anyway, but
I
yeah.
didn't
So
expect this to be contentious, but I don't agree with anything you're saying. I think the
well,
reality is little old ladies sitting in their houses, not
yeah,
having access to banking because the branches have all been closed down, not having access to the metaverse because they don't have the devices, they don't have the internet connectivity. I think if 80-year-old men are finding comfort and and fending off suicide by being in the metaverse, then they are extraordinarily rare people. You know, I don't think your average 80-year-old man is accessing the metaverse.
no, they're not. It's aged care facilities where many of them live. So I'm saying it's the aged care sector, and of course we're all getting older. The majority of us are over 60 now, so that is going to be bigger and bigger, and so it's actually finding ways to
So
do things
aged
that
care are also investing in providing this service in the metaverse.
they're not. Yes,
Okay, then I
yes.
wholly disagree with that as well. That shouldn't be happening. That's not where the people who need that support are.
Yeah, well, I mean, these are experiments. I'm talking about research projects.
Mm,
So, and there's a lot of findings around neuroscience and sort of interrupting a destructive thought pattern. So
yeah.
it's therapy, put it that way. So I'm not saying that, if you lined up a million users, 999, whatever of them would be
Oh, so
men
they're
in the
prescribing this as a treatment. Here's what I think.
not prescribing. No, they're not even at that point yet.
Making
It's
it.
more that
They're researching
they
the possibility that this might be a treatment.
but 20 years of researching. So it's not like it's only just yesterday they started. So there are a
Right.
lot of already findings about there's people who are laughing for the first time in 20 years. Like literally, they don't laugh and they don't even speak, and now they're singing and whatever. So it actually gets them back to life, if you like. So I'm not saying that's everybody, and I'm
No.
not saying that it's a massive, but all I'm saying is that any tool can be used for good and evil, and it's not intended to replace real life. It's intended to bring someone back to life and remind them what they care about and give them an experience of travel. So there was a program on the ABC recently, and I know the professor who designed this from University of Sydney, called Old Age Home for 4-year-olds. It actually borrows from the program you would have seen in the BBC of the same name, and they brought 4-year-olds into an old age home to kind of give them both a different experience. 4-year-olds got all these grandparent exposure, and the grandparents got all these little kids suddenly bringing them, life. But
Yes.
one of the things was a lady who wanted to travel, and this is one thing, her wish. So they wanted to do wish wall, right? So then they gave her that through this virtual experience. And she started to cry, and the little 4-year-olds were like, "Why is this sad?" And she was able to talk to them about the pyramids and describe the smell, and the kids were wrapped. And so it's actually not so much leaving them in there, but using it as an interruption to the belief that life's over. So that's what's happening in that as an experimental space. So yeah, certainly
Okay.
not measurable.
Well, the happiest people I know are the furthest removed from technology and the furthest removed from. What I think is that we are at our peril. Under. We are evacuating reality, and it's a mistake, because what will happen at some point in the future, we're going to take off our VR masks and find ourselves chest deep in water, and it's going to be a problem.
That is a graffiti cartoon waiting to happen.
It really
Someone
is.
standing knee deep in water wearing a nice virtual thing, huh? But
Yeah.
I completely agree. I study biomimicry. That's my discipline. So for
Yeah. So
sure.
that's why I expected to have less resistance on this.
Oh, it's not that I look. 90% of me says it's evil, but there's 10%. I don't think it is evil. That's the difference. I think that humans generally will use tools for good and bad, and perhaps whatever. But I'm
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
saying, it's not like it's 100. Nothing is 100% always evil. I think like this. I think you'll even have. Yeah, I won't go into it, but there'll be any evil person. If you dig deep enough, they're going to hug their dog. There's something good in everyone. But
Yeah.
also, as humans, we've moved away from nature for 10,000 years. We've been trying to get away from it because nature kills us. We don't want to have a chance of getting eaten by a lion, bitten by a spider. So we've removed ourselves from nature so far that we're now in apartment buildings that's 54, 94 floors away from nature, and no plants except for plastic ones. We couldn't get further from nature. And yet, give us a minute and we've got Antarctica heating up 50 degrees overnight, and that is going to deeply impact our building, our life, the lives of those we love around the world. So nature is definitely in charge. We're just one life form on this planet, and I think we overestimate our control of nature. Nature will say, right, this life form is causing all sorts of issues. I think we should get rid of it. So
Yep.
that's ultimately what I think about our role and our importance in the scheme of things. We're just another life form on the planet.
Yeah, that's what I think as well. I mean, that's exactly what I think. The planet was here a long time before we were, and it will be here a long time after we are. And I think we'll be forgotten. Like, even during the pandemic, we saw, like, in the first 3, 4, 5, 6 months, you saw, like, nature
Yeah.
recovering, like, urban areas, So that's what I think. I just wish that we'd get the reality sorted out before we start investing so much in this virtual reality, which isn't real at all. It's a computer program.
Yeah.
And all I would
Yeah.
say, like, the one thing I want to say about your thing is, like, nothing is good or evil, okay, but these things are all driven by profit, and we've seen Facebook will lie to the tune of 400% if it means it will get more of our money. The only thing I don't really understand is how or why they need so much of our money. It's like, surely they've got enough now. Can they not just stop? Is it not enough? If Elon Musk is worth 300 billion, is that not enough? Like, it's never enough is the answer. That's the truth. You are a legend, Melanie Farmer. Thank you so much for being here again. I'll see you in a couple of weeks, hopefully. We'll say goodbye now for anyone who's watching this, and then we'll say goodbye after I hit the record button like normal human beings. Is there anything you want to say before we go?
Thanks so much. Really interesting today.
Always really
So,
interesting.
yeah.